Before the rise of empires, before the pyramids pierced the sky, before even the word God had meaning, there were those who remembered. They were not prophets. They were not priests. They were initiates. And what they knew was forbidden. These ancient masters did not seek enlightenment. They activated it. They didn't pray for miracles. They became the miracle. They understood something we've long forgotten, that the human body is a living temple, that the soul is not something you possess, it is something you are, and that divinity is not above, but within. What if I told you that hidden in the architecture of ancient temples, in the geometry of pyramids, in the tones of sacred chants, in the postures of old statues, is a forgotten technique, a sacred key, not taught through books, not explained through doctrines, but awakened through resonance. This key is not a metaphor, it's a real process, encoded in the symbols of Thoth, in the teachings of Atlantis, and in the heart of ancient Kemet. This was no superstition, it was a science of spirit. They called it many names, but its function was singular, to reconnect you to your divine origin. They knew the body could vibrate at frequencies that open gates, that sound could alter consciousness, that breath, movement, and intention, aligned, could reprogram reality from the inside out. This technique wasn't just hidden, it was forbidden. Why? Because those who controlled the empires feared those who controlled themselves. This knowledge, once available only to high initiates, was buried under myth and dogma. It was scattered across continents, encrypted in sacred texts and lost languages, waiting for someone who could feel it, not just read it. Perhaps that someone is you. Have you ever looked at an ancient glyph and felt like you've seen it before? Heard a frequency that made your chest ache with a strange longing? Had a dream of a temple you've never visited, but somehow remembered? That's not coincidence. That's calling. You are not learning this for the first time. You are remembering. This is the ancient code, hidden in plain sight, in stone, in stars, and now in you. The forbidden technique is not outside of you, it's encoded in your soul. And once you remember, nothing will ever be the same. It begins with stillness, but not the kind of stillness you imagine. Not silence, not absence. It is the stillness before sound, the sacred void where creation begins. You must first empty yourself, not of thoughts, but of noise, of distraction, of the relentless chaos that has been layered over your spirit since the day you were born. The technique is not complicated, but it requires something most people will never offer. Surrender, not to a god, but to your own forgotten frequency. Breathe, tone, feel. That is the foundation, not prayer, not dogma, not belief, but vibration. The ancients understood something we have lost. That sound was not a decoration, it was the architect of reality. They didn't just chant, they calibrated themselves. Their breath, their tone, their inner stillness, all became one with the frequency of the cosmos. And Thoth, the great scribe of Atlantis and Kemet, taught that the voice, when aligned with intention and sacred geometry, could awaken what modern science now calls junk DNA. But it is not junk, it is memory, encoded, dormant, waiting. This is the technique they erased. They burned the scrolls. They dismantled the temples. They called it blasphemy, sorcery, heresy, because it could not be owned. It could not be monetized. It could not be controlled. And most of all, because it worked. If you remembered who you truly are, you would no longer obey. You would not seek salvation. You would realize you are the doorway, and they feared that. The vibrational technique was never about sounding pretty. It was raw, earthy, elemental. A voice that vibrated from the bones, not the mouth. It was a resonance that rippled through the spinal column, aligned the chakras, though they didn't call them that, and opened the heart center like a temple gate. In the inner schools of Kemet, initiates would train for years before uttering even a single syllable aloud, because once spoken, these tones could change everything. Modern science now peeks at this truth through the edges of sound healing, cymatics, resonant frequencies. But the ancients knew it already. They didn't need machines. They were the machines. A voice properly tuned could move matter, restore memory, call down light, and dissolve fear. This is what they took from you, not out of malice, but out of necessity for control. Because a world full of awakened beings who remember their divine architecture would not bow, would not conform, would not comply. So they distracted you with noise, with false doctrines, with the outer world. They convinced you to listen to them and forget the sound that was always within you. But now, it's returning in whispers, in dreams, in resonance, and you are remembering not just the truth, but the technique. And once remembered, it cannot be erased again. This is not just philosophy. This is not metaphor, not poetic mysticism. This is physics. And more than that, it is memory, because your soul doesn't forget. It doesn't need to be convinced. It doesn't need doctrine, dogma, or ritual. It only needs one thing: to be heard. Have you ever sat in silence and then, suddenly, a sound moves through you, and without knowing why, your body begins to shake, your chest tightens, your eyes fill with tears, not from sadness, not from joy, but from something older than emotion, recognition. You weren't reacting, you were remembering. Because before language, there was sound. Before thought, there was vibration. Before trauma, before the pain, before the fear, before your name, there was a frequency that called you into being. That sound was sacred. It was your original name, not in words, but in tone. And it still exists, buried under the noise, drowned in the chaos, hidden beneath the static of this world. But it's still there, in your cells, in your blood, in the quiet between your thoughts. And when it returns, even for a moment, your body knows. Your spirit leans forward. You feel it in your bones. Not a memory from your mind, but a deep soul memory encoded into the geometry of your being. The ancient ones understood this. They didn't just hear the sound, they became it. That's why Thoth spoke of vibration not as effect, but as origin. He knew the word was not something spoken after creation. It was what created. In the temples of Kemet, sound was used to heal not just the body, but the pattern of the soul. Each chant, each tone, was calibrated to correspond with a cosmic principle, resonating through organs, emotions, memories, dimensions. Modern science is just beginning to rediscover this. They now speak of cymatics, of sound forming shape. They now measure how frequencies alter biology, how resonance can affect matter. But the ancients were never guessing. They were remembering. And so are you. Because when you hear the frequency that matches your divine code, when you feel it humming through your chest like a song you've always known, your illusions begin to fall away. Your trauma doesn't need to be understood. It simply disintegrates. This isn't bypassing. It isn't escaping. It's returning to the vibration of truth, to the sacred hum of who you really are. Not what the world told you, not what religion labeled you, but what your spirit has known since before the first heartbeat. There are no words that can teach you this. Only vibration, only experience. That is the forbidden technique. Not to seek, not to chase, but to remember, through resonance, what was never lost. And in that moment, you will no longer ask if you are divine. You will no longer seek permission to be free, because your soul will stand still and whisper through every cell of your being, I remember. I am, and from that point on, nothing will ever control you again. You are not a seeker. You are what was once sought. You were never lost, just asleep. And now the world around you is crumbling, not to punish, but to awaken. Because now, the time has come. The ancients spoke of a cycle, a return of the divine within humanity. And that time is now. But the key was never in the stars. It was never in temples or holy books. It was always in you. So listen, not with your ears but with your presence. Not to sound, but to resonance. Right now, close your eyes. Take a deep breath in through your nose. Feel the air touch the inner walls of your being. Hold it, and slowly exhale through your mouth. Let your chest soften. Let your shoulders fall. Let your jaw relax. Now hum, low, deep. Let it rise from your belly. Let it vibrate through your bones. Let it echo into the places inside you that you forgot existed. This is not a mantra. This is not a chant. This is a homecoming. It is the way the ancients aligned with Source, not through belief, but through frequency, not through fear, but through embodiment. When you hum with intention, you activate the memory locked within your DNA, a resonance that connects you to all who have come before and all who are still to come. You become the bridge between sound and silence, between matter and spirit, between the forgotten and the remembered. Each vibration is a key, and the more you use it, the more doors begin to open. Not outside, but within. You will feel emotions rise. Let them. You will feel tears without reason. Welcome them. You will feel a presence you cannot name. Honor it. That is your soul answering the call. Repeat this ritual, not as obligation, but as a devotion. Every morning, every night, until it becomes effortless, until it becomes you. Because this technique, this forbidden practice, was never something you had to learn. It was something you were always meant to remember. And once you remember, truly remember, you will feel the shift. Your posture changes, your breath deepens, your voice gains power, your eyes soften but see deeper. You begin to speak less because you are now listening more. You stop looking for God because you now feel divinity moving through your own being. This is what they feared. This is what they tried to erase. Not because it's fantasy, but because it's real. Because it works. Because it's yours. So activate it. Not tomorrow. Not when you're ready. Now hum your soul awake. Tone the frequency of remembrance. Let the light of your being expand beyond your skin. Let it reach others. Let it awaken them too. Because a soul that remembers cannot be controlled, cannot be enslaved, cannot be silenced. And once enough of us remember, the illusion will fall, the world will shake, the old systems will dissolve, and in their place, a new harmony will rise. It begins with you. Breathe, vibrate, remember. You are the technique. You are the frequency. You are the forgotten key. And now you've remembered. And now that you've heard the call, will you ignore it or will you become it? The forgotten technique is no longer forgotten. It lives through you now. If this message stirred something ancient within you, don't let it fade. Subscribe for more truths they tried to bury. Share this with someone whose soul is ready to awaken. And comment below, I remember. Because once you remember, you become unstoppable.